So welcome to the Conscious Union with God class today. And I'm really happy that you're here, that you joined the class live, or maybe that you see this later on YouTube. All is well. It really does not matter at all. When you're going to see this, have a great experience with it. Allow it to affect you. Allow this, like what has been given, to really come to you. So this is what we do in this class. It is pretty relaxing. It is not that you have to sit on the edge of your seat to hear something new. No, it is more like become receptive, because what you can receive today is going to be given to you, and so that is, you can still be of full anticipation, but the relaxation is very important in this. In other words, we're not trying to achieve anything. We're not doing anything really. No, it's letting this frequency affect you. And so today in this class, Conscious Union, we use the book of Joel Goldsmith, Conscious Union with God. And I thought it was a great book to use, because see, the basic things that we're doing in this spiritual path is coming to a deeper experience of God, coming closer to, or having a real experience of direct communication. So this is why we're here. That's really the purpose of the class. And so anything that can help with that, that's wonderful. So the words of Joel are really interesting to hear and to read for me again. So we had a little episode in which we were really diving deeply in the Course in Miracles. And now it's like, oh, that's so great to have Joel back and to listen to Joel, to read Joel. And just because actually now looking with different eyes altogether all the time, seeing that everything that's given by Joel suddenly starts to seem like a preparation for A Course in Miracles, which is really interesting to me. Anyway, I will tell you more about this in the class. And today it is like I want to go really structured through it, in a certain sense, structured through the first chapter. And the first chapter is called The Basis of Spiritual Healing. So the basis of spiritual healing is an interesting subject to me, because, and it's not just a subject, of course, it is what we're doing. So when you signed up for this class, or when you're watching this, you have an interest in it. Is that right? You have an interest in it that goes beyond anything else. That's how bad it is, isn't it? That is how it was and is for me. You want to dive, you want to know everything about it. You want to get in touch with it deeply and even deeper and even deeper. So this class is another opportunity for that. So if you say I just like to read a book now and then from Joel, and that's all fine with me, then you're probably not going to listen to this, because this is really it's an active participation. Even though you're relaxing, you're actively participating in this, because you're allowing new ideas to come to you. That's right, isn't it? So the new ideas that come to you are given to you by Joel. And the new ideas that are given to you are actually given to you from out of time. So Joel speaks from out of time. Are you telling me that? Yes, indeed. He uses his Christ mind. It's like the only part of you that is real in the sense of eternal. And that is speaking to you in this. So the new ideas, why would you need new ideas? Well, the tendency is there, and you recognize this very well. The tendency is there that you start to repeat ideas, that you build up ideas about yourself that aren't true, and you walk around with it. You keep repeating those every day. It's like you wake up in the morning, it's like, oh no, I really have a bad back, and I can't sit like this anymore. I'm so stiff, or this or that, whatever it is. Or I'm not so happy with myself, or whatever it is. Like, you build up all kinds of ideas, like we all do, like we all did or do. You build up ideas and you start to walk around as if you are that, and that is, that's not necessary, and it doesn't make you happy, that's for sure. Am I right? Yes. So here we are, there are new ideas coming to you. So they have to replace the old. So, and that is another part that we were dealing with for a long time already, is like letting go of your old ideas about yourself. This is a great undoing of everything that you say related into a time consciousness, everything that you put in, say, grounded in a time-space continuum that doesn't exist. Anyway, so I'm already saying some things that might cause you to frown your eyebrows, like, what are you talking about? Okay, so everything has to do, and you can probably say, agree with that. Everything you do has to do with the ideas that you hold about yourself. Like the way that you look at yourself is determining how you are experiencing yourself. So if you think, for instance, and we'll get to that later in this class too, because Joel is talking about cause and effect. If you really think that you're affected by an outside world that is determining who you are, then you live that, and you live in that reality. And that is not really so anymore. We believed that for a long time, but that has been reversed in your mind. It has been reversed. So you're actually discovering, no, I'm the cause of all this. Like, I'm the cause of what I see and what I do and what I think, especially what I think. And I get the effect of that. I get the result of that. So this is what Joel is saying, and it sounds very much like A Course in Miracles to me. But that's great when you look at it with a new, say, insight or new vision that comes to you. And it really doesn't matter. I'm not fighting any of the two. Absolutely not. So the idea, you can agree with that. This is where I left off. Like, you can agree with me that the way that you think about yourself determines how you feel yourself. So if Joel comes with whole new ideas of your reality, of who you really are, you have to be open to receive those. There must be some space in your mind to receive those and see that they're actually making you happy. And you don't know why, but you have a recognition with them. They sound very familiar and attractive at the same time too. So that is what I love about reading the book, and especially also this chapter is a beautiful chapter that I discovered. So, okay, so I'm going to read a little bit from the first chapter. So, let me see. Go back to page 1. I have to do this on my little ebook. The basis of spiritual healing. Okay, here it is. Spiritual healing is brought about through the realization of the Christ in individual consciousness. Okay, so that's a great line. That's a great assignment too. Spiritual healing is brought about through the realization of the Christ in the individual consciousness. That is quite something. That is not so easy to just grasp just right away. So this idea probably comes back in the rest of the book, because it's like the basis. It's really the basis of spiritual healing. The realization of the Christ in individual consciousness. So he's actually spoiling his whole book here, right here. It's like a spoiler. Right? It's like, okay, do you need to read further? No, if you can realize that in this instant, you don't have to read the book. So there might be some of us that have to go a little further with that not can completely accept this for themselves. So, and that's what we call a spiritual path. So we're on a spiritual path practicing this. And so the next line, God, the individual consciousness of this universe, is the one and only consciousness. Well, that doesn't leave a lot of space for something else either. God, the individual consciousness of this universe, is the one and only consciousness. So that's another part of this book. That's probably the second chapter, if I got it right. It's like unbelievable to start a book like this. It's like, well, you might as well give them everything right away. So here's your basis, realization through Christ mind. And here's your God, the individual consciousness of all that is, all that is. There's only one consciousness, it's God. See, these ideas, you don't have to combine them with the ideas that you hold about yourself. So it is just allowing the space for this whole idea, because it's a whole idea. That's literally, it is all encompassing. It's complete. It is complete and it is whole and it is spacious. It's like it literally encompasses everything. So that's why this is not so easy just to accept just like that. And so the whole thing then becomes creating space to allow this new idea to come to you. And we're practicing that in this class. We will practice that. So how do you practice this? How can you possibly accept all this? Because it is everything. How am I supposed to do this? So that is the question. And that is what we're looking at. That is how this will evolve, that you start to discover, there are ways that we can do this. And of course you're familiar with an idea of meditation. So to calm yourself down enough that your thoughts calm down, that your whole system calms down, that your nervous system calms down, so that there's space in your mind to receive this. Suddenly you experience a glimpse of light. Suddenly you see that there's something possible that you didn't know before. So this is the development, the literal spiritual awakening that is taking place. So beautiful, beautiful. So before, like, to come back to the idea of cause and effect, before it was like, and this has to do with the way that we look at this world too. It's like Newtonian physics. You drop a stone and it hurts your foot. It's like falls down. We all know this. Like, the speed, you can even calculate the speed with which it comes to your feet, and all that. So that's like, okay, I let this go. It falls on my feet and it hurts. And that was the way that we knew, that we looked at this world. And so there are new insights, and they're not really new. You're probably familiar with the idea of Mr. Einstein that everything is energy. It's like everything is energy, and it's all connected too. We don't really know how. There must be something like atoms and molecules, and so you're literally built up, like your body is built up out of molecules, atoms, and even smaller particles and all that. So that is also an idea that you hold about yourself. You think that you're solid. You think that you're this. You think that whatever that is, whatever idea you hold about yourself. So we go deeper into that and actually discover, no, none of that was so. So if there's no real cause and effect the way that we know it, but it's actually free of polarity, in fact, it becomes like one thing, like there's energy and there's an, there's vibrations, something is changing, the frequency is changing, your mind can change just by listening to music, this, like music has a certain frequency and you start to vibrate on that frequency and suddenly you start to feel really good because you turned on some salsa and you start to get into a dance now. All this is familiar to you. So your idea about yourself has to do with all these little aspects that you hold about yourself, that you've taught yourself in time. which is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing to see how quickly that develops and how quickly that comes into like even scientifically proven way of looking at yourself. So, and what does that have to do with God? Well, if everything is energy, then God must be energy too. Like God must be included in that, in all of that. And that makes us also, there's no possibility of separation, because the air that I breathe right now is the air that you breathe a moment later, or just an hour ago, or because all this is like moving around and bringing you in, and bringing all the particles all over the place, literally, and not even the particles, but the thoughts that you think. We are connected with each other by that. So what you think is coming back. You literally send that out into this wholeness of energy. See, this is just one way of looking at yourself. But that's very important. It determines how you feel. If you think that you're this mechanical person sitting in a chair and having your own rhythm where you got familiar to, and thinking that that's not possible to change that determines you, like that determines the way that you look at yourself, and it determines also how you feel your body, or how you relate to others. So that's nice, because you're actually discovering, well, it's nice to be aware of it, that you can look at it in a different way, that you don't necessarily have to do that. See, and that's where the healing aspect comes in. So you can say, like, well, this is a form of quantum healing then, actually, the way we're talking. And it actually is. So what does this has to do with the basis of what Joel is giving us here? Like, Joel brings out the idea that your ideas about yourself are determining how you feel yourself. That's why I bring this in. So I will read some more to stay close to the text, because it's really nice to use it. That's where this is coming from. So this inspired me to go on a little tour into healing, into looking at this, into quantum healing, and reading about that again, and all that is given. There's, like I said, there's so much inspiration, there's so much available, and with your new mind you can pick it up really easily, and it's so freely available everywhere. That's what I love about that. Okay, so I'm reading a little bit from the book. Let me see. Okay, here, this is something. In some forms of mental practice, experiments have been conducted which prove that an individual cannot be induced to do anything which violates his own integrity unless it is his conscious choice. No amount of human thinking consciously directed at a person can ever make anyone violate his own integrity. Therefore, when anyone does wrong, it is because he himself is consciously violating his own sense of right. It all lies within its own being. Oh yeah, this is in regard, maybe you read this chapter. This has to do with the idea of 2 times 2 is 5. For example, if someone were sitting here repeating 2 times 2 is 5, our mathematical sense would be a protection to us, and we would not accept that incorrect statement. We say, you're dead, but your own sense of life would be a protection. And he says, he might say, you are dead, but your own sense of life would be a protection, and we would not be troubled by such erroneous thinking. And then he says, like, in some forms of mental practice, experiments have been conducted which prove that an individual cannot be induced to do anything that violates his own integrity unless it is his own conscious choice. No amount of consciously directed at a person can ever make anyone violate his own integrity. And therefore, when anyone does wrong, it is because he himself is consciously violating his own sense of right. It all lies within one's own being. So this was with the idea of cause and effect too. It's like, no, you cannot do anything to anyone. It's like you're literally affecting yourself with what you do. I don't want to get too deeply into that to make it too analytical, but it's like, don't do to others what you don't want to do to yourself. That has everything to do with that. Like, you don't want to violate a law that you hold dear for yourself. So that is very generally stated, and keep it kind of superficial here. So the next part, and which is a great example too, has to do with the idea of consciousness. Like, you have a conscious choice, you have a consciousness that is aware of how you can look at yourself and how you can look at the world around you and how you can look at God and how you can open yourself up for the experience of the love of God. So that is like, Joel says it this way in the book. I'll probably read a part of that too. It's like, it is not enough to say that God is with you. If you would say that continuously, God is with me, well, that is great, but you want to actually have a conscious experience of it so that you can actually use that or be in the state in which you actually can see that is true. You know, so this keeping as a sort of an affirmation is not going to help you out here. And you know this. This is really like also why we are in this class, why we signed up for this like conscious union with God. This is what you want. You want a conscious experience of God. Because imagine that you know that God is there and you don't experience him directly. That's what you think. So that is a real conflict. You know that I don't have to tell you that. You know that, right? You know that. That is a real conflict. So you can read all spiritual books, but if you don't have the experience of it, it doesn't make any sense. You might as well just read a novel or whatever. You know, it's like this, of course, helps to read books, to read spiritual books, of course, helps to say, get ready to receive these ideas and to become open to reception, to literally receive this for yourself. And that's necessary too. I don't deny that. But at the same time, it is like the focus is really about coming into a communication with God, coming into a direct communication. Because that's where all the joy is. Like, then a book is still very dry in that sense. You can read, it's like, oh, that's beautiful. Still staying in your mental state, you know. And that's, so that, Joel compared it in the book, in the first chapter, he compares it to electricity. Like, we were, like, electricity has always been there. You know, it's always been there. The caveman knew about thunder and lightning, and so there was electromagnetic energy. There was energy. There was electricity. That was the word I was looking for. Electricity, right? So if you are aware that you can actually use it and become aware that even though you don't see it, it is still there, like with current, yeah, you might as well know that, because otherwise you hurt yourself. So now in this time, look at all the electricity that's being used even to connect with one another, to see each other on a screen, in which you actually get an experience of we're close to one another. Here you are. It's like no time, no distance, no it's amazing. We can see each other, but by good use, awareness, using it in your awareness, that you can actually apply this, is the direct experience of the presence of electricity, right? I got you on this. And Joel, I thought it was a great example that Joel brought in. So this is the same with being plugged into conscious awareness of God, direct communication. It's like, yeah, imagine that you are plugged in, so to speak, that you are connected and aware of it. My God, it would all be a breeze. It would be so easy. It would be so, so inspiring and so much fun to be together, to see that we're communicating automatically, ecstatically, So this is a possibility. It is the most natural thing that can happen to us. And that's why I love this book. And that's why I love this subject, to connect with you in that. And invite you in to say, look at yourself one more time, to look at how you describe yourself, to how you limit yourself, how you repeat yourself, how you, are not even present, like here completely, but thinking that you have to do something, that you have to do something after this, that you were like a couple of years something happened, and you come with your whole story, bringing that in as the reality of who you are. In the meantime, not experiencing the peace and the joy that you actually would like to experience, and you wonder why that doesn't work, or why it doesn't happen, why it doesn't happen to you. And that is okay. So we accept this for a moment, but become very open to receive new information and new activity of ourselves, in which we allow a new you to arise, to come to a new, not a description of yourself, but letting yourself be new. So Joel gives another example of something that's actually really funny too. It's like, well, imagine 2,000 years ago. It was not that different than how it is now, but it certainly was a little bit. But the tendency of the disciples of him were to say they had certain ideas about what freedom Jesus could give them, and they were very much attracted to that too. It's like they saw that happening on this plane, on this, like they wanted to be experiencing freedom in this continuum, in this in their humanness. They wanted to actually experience freedom. And that was a very limited idea. It had nothing to do with freedom. So that's another aspect of what Joel brings in this chapter. I'll see if I can find some in the book. Yeah, that's always a thing. I should have written it down, is what I said now. But so I had the electricity part, but now the freedom. Oh, it was so great. And so you probably have to read that in the chapter yourself. But it was a great. I gave some of it to you in the sense of having. So this is something you can look at yourselves, and read it in the book too. The idea of what you think is freedom. What would be your idea of freedom, and how does that relate to the freedom that Jesus is actually offering to you? So that's a good one to discover, to examine, or to discover basically. So there was one prayer that I would love to read. It's not a big of a chapter, but I have a hard time finding stuff. Oh yeah, here it is. So this is all about spiritual healing. Do not try to heal anybody humanly, either mentally or physically. Try to be silent in the center of your being and feel the Christ, knowing that all this is taking place in the one heart, the heart of God, which is the heart of you. You must feel a conscious oneness with God. God is all-inclusive. And since God is all-inclusive, you and I must be included in that God being. So that when I am at one with God, I am at one with you. And when I am at one with God, you are at one with me. So here's the prayer. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with you and with every spiritual being and with every activity of God that is included in my life. All these are divine ideas, the form of which we translate in terms of our human needs. But these are divine ideas. Just as your body is a spiritual body in God, neither male nor female. So when you are touching the Christ at the center of your being, which is the Christ of every individual, there is only pure love, pure spirit. Because of the human sense, however, the qualities of God are interpreted as both male and female. In the same way, the idea of transportation can be translated into a donkey, an airplane, a streetcar, or an automobile. These represent only the human concepts of the divine idea of transportation. The truth about transportation is found in the word instantaneity. I am everywhere, here, there, everywhere. That is the truth about spiritual transportation. That is why it is just as easy for a practitioner in San Francisco to heal someone in China as to heal someone who is physically present with him. See, and this is what I try to share with you in the beginning. Is like, it has all to do with the ideas that you hold about yourself. So if you can allow your mind to stretch like to its fullest and see that there's no such thing as time and space, and that literally there's only one of us, then distant healing doesn't even exist. Like it is always like that. It is not anything particular. No, it's happening here and now, and it is affecting everything. Because of the, like in the scientific model of, it's like a continuing, as a continuity. Time and space is not really there. There's no such thing as distance. There's no such thing as time. So these ideas are all like, we used them for a while as human beings, and we thought really need them in order to exist. But actually, now we have come to the end of that, realizing that the one thing that we want is really to come back to home, so to speak, to come back to have a realization of the oneness which includes everything. So that is what's been given here, and so I I hope this is helpful to you, because so the things to practice this week, if you want, is like, how am I looking at myself? Is my definition of myself really who I am, or is there a possibility that it can be different? And the other thing is, if there's no such thing as cause and effect, then what is happening? Like, where do I find myself in this? If I'm the literally create all of this, how does that work then? How does it even look for me? And the other thing is, like, what is freedom in this? What is freedom? What is my idea about freedom, and how does this relate to the totality of freedom in terms of being this God being? So that's quite a bit of homework, isn't it? It's quite big. So it will keep us busy, and we take this with us also to the next class, and that's perfectly all right. So here ends this class for the recording.